Hello, and welcome to another episode of Street Level Marketing with your host, Mark Lamplugh. We have a really good show for you this evening. My guest today is Nicholas Boatman. Nicholas is the president, CEO of Discovery Institute, and he's also the president of Poplar Wellness. I brought him on the show today to talk about Poplar Wellness and how he came about wanting to start this business. What are some of the struggles he had in the beginning, launching it. I know when we're running certain businesses, we see opportunities to maybe add to make our businesses better with different applications. And that's just what one of these were. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
So, first off, just tell me a little bit, or tell the guests, or a little bit about Poplar and what it is.
Sure. I'm a co-founder, president of Poplar Wellness. And what we do is we're a technology company. We're a software company. And we take the latest and greatest in technology and apply it to the behavioral health field for better outcomes and better patient safety. So we launched Poplar about a year ago. It's still kind of in startup mode, but it's really getting some legs, and we've had just some great success with it in this market, just an overwhelming response.
What was your thought process, and what were some of the reasons that you thought this would be like a viable application in the space that you're in? You've been in the behavioral mental health space, addiction space for almost 15 years now. When you're thinking about coming up with something like this, what made you think it was going to be something that was going to be useful and beneficial to add on to the services that you provide?
Yeah, it's really finding a need, in the market. And we knew coming into this that this field was desperate for innovation. Addiction treatment and mental health are the number one problems in America, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody that's listening to this either has been impacted by it, or they have a close family member or friend that has been impacted by it. And I've been in the space for 12 years. I'm actually in recovery myself. So, through my 20s, I went to college. I was an MIS major. I got myself through college. I was an eBay power seller. I've had a couple of businesses, and we got caught up. I had surgery one year on my shoulder and broke my ankle in the same year. And a lot of people, that are in their 30s and 40s got caught up in Oxycontin. And what happened there was I changed my life around. Recovery became my life, and bettering myself became my life. And that got me started in the behavioral health field. I started off small. I started with some sober livings, turned that into 80 beds on a treatment center, about 110 beds of aftercare over a couple of years. And, overall, I've had about 6 treatment centers, anywhere from Florida to St. Louis, Kansas City, California. And I'm actually here in my office right now, an addiction treatment center I'm the president of in New Jersey. So I knew through my experience some of the holes that were in this space, and outcomes, they're not good overall. They're not good. So it's really purpose driven for me. And I know that we have to do better, and somebody's got to lead. And I think it's a really exciting time to be in healthcare right now. There is the technology, as you all know, with AI and some of the things that are coming on, it's rapidly advancing. And I was just at the Artificial Intelligence Healthcare Symposium not long ago in San Diego, and it's wild, some of the stuff that's coming out right now. But it's in every other sector of healthcare. It's not in behavioral health. So that's what really, sparked the idea, is to fill those gaps and get better outcomes.
So when you had the concept, you had the idea, you kind of knew what it was you wanted to do. What was your initial steps in starting to roll that process out?
Yeah, actually, I have a partner as well. She's out in St. Louis. Her name's Sarah Riley. She was working for a company and had some remote patient monitoring. So she brought me the idea, and it was incredible. I knew that it was going to be a hit. So one of the things that we did was we took some traditional remote patient monitoring devices and we applied them to this space. And where I'm at now in my treatment center, everything is tested and trialed here before we release it to the market.
How long have you been? How long has it been since you started rolling it out, and where are you at in that process? Is it out in other treatment centers? I mean, how long has that process taken you? Has there been any hurdles along the way?
Oh, of course. It's been a grind. I will say that. It is. We've been at this for almost 2 years, and a lot of that has been development. We're the first people to do this. So we've really went down an unpaved path. There's nobody I can call and say, "Hey, how did you get that done?" Which
Yeah.
there's a million treatment centers out there. I can do that. I have a lot of other friends that are owners. I can bounce things off them. This is something with software development that we had to create our own thing. So there's been all types of trials and tribulations and working through kinks, getting it out there. But the biggest thing is believing in yourself, believing in the product. And that's why purpose and doing what you love is so important, because when I get up every day and do this, it's exciting to me. It's exhilarating. And that is our purpose, is to revolutionize behavioral health. And I believe that we can do that through technology and data. And yes, the hurdles as far as anything from bootstrapping this thing from the ground up and funding it ourselves to raising capital, to working through the software, to long nights, long hours, weekends, dealing with our developers in Singapore, working through things, just testing products, at the night, trying to, see if things work. What's the problem? Where are the kinks? And just pushing through that. But it's all worth it at the end.
Yeah. Now, is it strictly for other behavioral mental health facilities, or is this something, an individual can get off the shelf? Who is it for, and what does it do?
Yeah. So right now we have two main products that are out in the market. So we have wearable watches. This is an example of one. So when somebody comes in, right now we're in 12 other facilities, and we have a whole lot that we're about to go into. So this is our wearable. When somebody walks into our treatment center, we detoxify their body. They're here for 7 to 10 days in detox, and then they go over to what's called a residential level of care. This monitors real-time heart rate variability and oxygen saturation. So that's all projected on a screen for the nurses station. Anybody can view it. We have big TVs up in our nurses station. Our medical director can see it from home, whoever wants to view it. And it gives us a real-time look at all of our patients. And what that does is it allows the technology to be the eyes and the ears for the medical staff. So if somebody has some type of catastrophic event, there's over 5,000 overdoses that happen in treatment centers. Maybe, they have a heart issue. We actually call it a heart attack in here. And it's about getting in front of things before they actually happen. So yes, we are in 12 different centers. We have that, and we also have a vital software. So everybody, any treatment center that you go into, you have to have your vitals taken. They take your temperature 3 times a day. They do your blood pressure, and they do an oximeter for your oxygen. Well, that's a very manual process. They have to manually do that. They have to write it down. They have to enter it into the electronic health records. And with us, through our software, you click a button on thermometer, you take the temperature, and everything ports straight into the EHR. So we have that, and we're also about to release what we call our self-serve kiosk. So it's really cool. It's high-tech looking. Clients can walk up to it themselves and they can take their own blood pressure. It's got an infrared temperature gauge that you put their hand up, takes their temperature, their oxygen levels. It's all touch screen, and that ports straight into the EHR. So what it does is, we're creating efficiencies inside of the treatment center and for the clients. So it cuts down on manual labor and also data entry and increases accuracy. So it really helps the treatment centers and the clinicians and the medical staff focus on what really matters, which is delivering good patient care.
And there's probably alarms set in there at different parameters for each patient to kind of give you a warning, when something goes above or below a certain.
Yeah, there's audio alerts, there's visual alerts. So it'll start beeping at you. We can send text messages, emails. Actually, the first 24 hours we had one of these watches in here. We had a 20-year-old kid, and he smuggled in fentanyl through his rectum. We had no idea, and went into his room, and they just sat down to put him into his room. The nurses went back to the nurses station. They have to do what's called narcotic count. And all of a sudden they see the screen that starts going nuts, starts beeping at them. And they ran into his room, and they knew that he overdosed. So they were able to Narcan him and bring him back. He may have died. So it's getting in front of those things and making sure that patient safety is number one.
That's yeah. Working in the space, I understand it a little bit. So I know how some of that information can be vital, getting to it right away and getting those warnings. So we're coming up to our first commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about, what you did with marketing this, how you determine your budgets and all that. So, we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Street Level Marketing with Mark Lamplugh, with our guest from Poplar Wellness, Nick Boatman. We're going to start talking about, getting it back into that marketing, where we're going to determine where that marketing spend's going to be. As new businesses, it usually finances are the thing that you hold dear, and you want to spend as little as possible because you're new. So you want to come up with innovative ideas on the way you can get your product or your service out into the marketplace, and so you can start generating more business. And Nick, when you were starting this, what was the process in going into your marketing plan? You kind of had to figure out who your customers were going to be. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Marketing dollars are something that you really have to pay attention to. And, the best advice that I can give you, it's having a plan. We put together a pro forma, to where we've allocated every dollar from the beginning, and putting together all the pieces of the puzzle for a projected strategic plan. Right. So we have our business plan. We know who our target market is, who we're going after, who our competition is, really narrowing in on that. And then outlining a pro forma, which is, financials, what we're going to need to get this off the ground, where we're going to spend our money. And when it comes to marketing, I don't care what anybody says. Marketing is everything for any business. If you don't have marketing and you can't sell product, you can't do. Your business isn't going to succeed. So, a lot of it at the beginning is what I call just guerrilla marketing. It takes an endless just pursuit of going after it and working harder than the next people. Hard work and consistency, just determination beats everything. So what we did was, we are B2B. So we go directly to other businesses, other treatment centers. LinkedIn was a huge tool for us because that's where you can reach other business owners, right? You can reach other CEOs, you can reach CMOs. So I think it's really understanding who you're going after and then the need, right? How are you going to help them? If you have a product or a service, you have to offer something for somebody else. And that's what we do, right? How is this going to help you in your business? How is this going to increase your bottom line or help your population and separate you from other people? So LinkedIn was a huge tool for us in kind of mass messaging on there. We also did a lot of email campaigns to where we went out and had lists that you can find them all over, right? You can purchase them on the internet. You can find anything on the internet, and a lot of mass mailing, and then just getting out there. We went to conferences. Every single event that was happening that we knew that was big in treatment, putting together some basic marketing materials and making it look good. You can go on Fiverr or some of these other websites and get logos made for really cheap, and you can get marketing materials, brochures, and starting to get the word out. And it's really proving the concept at the beginning. And that's all us. There was two of us, three of us at the beginning, right? And we had to go out there and just represent it, because nobody, as far as capital raise and doing any of that, proving the concept comes first, showing that you can sell it's a viable product, making sure you're making those marketing dollars count, and taking it to the next level after that.
Yeah, one of the things in doing marketing now that I love is, a lot of the AI tools and platforms. I mean, there's, websites out there that you can go to another person's website and they'll pull all the emails, and you can create email lists, and
Yep.
It's actually kind of fun. You're putting
That GPT is one of my best friends. Let me tell you, I've saved so much money on attorneys, lawyers, finding out, writing content, writing emails, producing images, you name it. And that's technology. Use it to your advantage. It's a huge help and a huge money saver.
I think one of the things too, especially understanding, what you're providing treatment centers, it's not necessarily for them. And I think the hurdle that you have is you have a product, that offer that there might not be a direct return for the business, other than being able to teach them how they can use that in their marketing to generate business for themselves, because you're off.
And it is, because there's an indirect return, right? So we're not directly depositing anything into your bank account. We are a subscription service. This is $100 a bed, right? And that's a monthly cost. But what this does, like you're saying, there's a couple advantages. One, from the marketing standpoint, nobody's using this. And most treatment centers out there, I'm sorry to say it, they're the same. They offer, medical services and talk therapy. But to use technology to differentiate yourself from the competition is huge. You can use it on your website and your emails, all in your marketing material, and it gives you a competitive advantage. So that's one. And then, you have to know how you're going to help that center. Yes, we help the clients and client care and safety, but we also can help on the staffing side. Everybody's, short-staffed on nurses and medical staff. And if something happens and you get hit with a lawsuit, that's big money. So we can save you on getting ahead of things and give you more bang for your buck, because you're able to monitor all of your clients, even if you have lower staff. And then we're also saving on hospitalizations. We get in front of these things, and for a treatment center, if their client goes to the hospital, it's not good for the client. They're in there for 3 days. The treatment center has to hold that bed for that client. They're not billing, and they're losing out on thousands of dollars while they're gone. So this helps get in front of that, and we reduce hospitalizations. So they see an indirect return, but it's selling that portion and having people realize, hey, there's more to this.
Even in the reputation aspect of it, when there are deaths, unfortunately, at facilities, the long-term effect that can have on a treatment center's reputation.
100%.
Yeah,
we that's a huge thing. We see it happen all the time.
Mm-hmm. When you were coming up with your, like, in the beginning, your limited resources as far as financially go, the aspect goes for your spend, how did you determine what you could spend based on what you had? Like, was there any sort of process you went through? Was there like test runs for advertising?
Well, first off, I always recommend, unfortunately, I'm in a spot to where I could bootstrap this and use some of my own cash. I've gotten to a point to where, we're raising capital right now as we speak. But you have to work with what you have. And if you're going out to get capital, I would much rather have too much than too little, because investors get short arms. When you come back to them for more money, they don't like that. You don't want to be in that position. So you have to make use of what you have. And the most valuable thing that you have is your own time and energy, right? So we put, we know what we have for the day-to-day operations. We save money any place that we can for just, I guess, our original product, our software, get it to a point to where we can at least release it onto the market. And then I'm a big believer that everything that you can, you put as much money into market. You got to be smart on where you put those dollars and what you're doing, but start running some different campaigns. You take a couple of things, email marketing, LinkedIn, maybe you're doing PPC, some pay-per-click ads, but you choose what you think is wisest, right? That's going to be the best for your brand and your product to sell. You allocate a budget to each one of those, and they call it split A/B testing. So you're testing these different campaigns, and you have to know where things are coming from. If I'm making a sale, where did you hear about us? Where did that come from? And you'll see over time what's working and what's not working. And then you have to constantly go back, restructure, and say, okay, the PPC and the pay-per-click, that was working. Let's put more dollars into that. We didn't get much off the email campaigns because not many people were opening them. We didn't have a good conversion rate there. Let's change it to where 80%, of this budget is now going to go over to the pay-per-click, and we're going to limit and switch some things up with the email marketing to see if we can get a little bit better.
Now, having another business while you're starting a new one kind of has its advantages because you might have a lot of the team in place. Did you utilize a lot of the marketing team from your one business in creating like the brochures and everything that you needed to get out there? Or did you keep everything separate and kind of, do it separately from one business to the other?
Yeah, well, the way that I did it, speaking from my own experience, is having another business and trying to start another business. It's dicey because you have to make sure that you have everything in place. Focus is the most important thing. If you're trying to do too many things at one time, nothing will succeed. You have to have laser focus on whatever you're doing. So people and the structure, right? The bones of your organization is so important. So I have a management company, and on my management company, I have an executive C-suite, right? I'm the CEO, the COO, CFO, CMO. I have a full call center. I have, a creative branding director that does all of our design, our brochures, all that. So that's the central hub for anything that I get into. And you have to have stability and make sure that good people, if you are going to start up another business, that's running and that's doing well, and you have the appropriate infrastructure before you do anything else. And fortunately for us, any business that I have right now, they blend together, right? And it's all part of the same field, and we utilize each business to our advantage to grow them simultaneously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Well, we come up out of time for this segment, so we'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Street Level Marketing with your host, Mark Lamplugh. This is real people talking about real marketing strategies, and we're here talking with Nick Boatman, the president and CEO of Poplar Wellness. And the first segment we talked about, the business and how he got started. In the second segment, we talked about his marketing spend and budgets, and how that's important and ties into the growth of the company. But now we want to talk about, how he found his niche. And when you're starting a business and you're going to go out there and market it to other businesses or to even people, like what makes you different than what else is out there? So Nick, tell us a little bit about how you determined. There's lots of competition out there. A lot of times they say the more competition, that means there's more opportunity for market. Because when you don't have something that has a lot of competition, there might not be a viable application for it, and it might not be a viable business. But when you have competition, there's room to grow in that space. So how did you determine what your niche was compared to other people that might have been doing similar things?
Yeah, I mean, one thing consistent about life is change, right? Everything's always changing and evolving, like you said. Even if there is competition out there, there's technology, there's new ways of doing things, there's better ways of doing things, because you see it all the time, right? Companies that have been doing the same old things for years, and then somebody else comes in and does it better, right? Blockbuster, you go to Netflix and online streaming, there's a million examples out there. But for me, it's really finding our niche, our lane, and going with it. And how we did that is we went into the behavioral health sector. So, as I was saying earlier, we use some traditional remote patient monitoring tools, right? Vitals, wearable watches that are out there. And, hospitals can use some of this stuff. It might not be watches, but they monitor patients in the same way. They do them in other verticals of healthcare, but nobody's doing it in behavioral health. So that's what we're doing, is taking the latest and greatest in healthcare tech and applying it to behavioral health. Understand your market size, understand where you're going, and create that niche. How are you going to separate yourself from other people? And in our space, we're the only ones to do this. This is an unpaved path. So there is no competition right now. We did have one other company. They do something with watches, but it's a little bit different than what we do. But this is a massive, massive market. There's plenty of room, right, for competition. But we are some of the first ones. We are the first ones on the scene, and that has really helped us and push it and drive it.
So, a business like yours, like Poplar, is offered to other businesses. So, in the marketing aspect, a lot of that approach and how you're going to get new customers is a lot different than it would be as in, you're just running some advertising on TV or selling a car, you're running PPC campaigns or Amazon ads. The approach that you take to get new customers is completely different. How did you kind of determine that approach when you were going to go out to other businesses? Did you hire a business development team? Do you have a representative that goes out and kind of gets new clients? Like, what's your approach to that?
I mean, I've done it multiple times in different businesses, and what happens is typically I'm the one, or my partner and I that started. We get out there. You have to be willing to play all the roles at the beginning. Put all the hats on. I don't care what it is. And I don't care if it's cleaning the toilets. You get in there and you get it done. And there's levels to this, right? So once you get to a certain point, yes, you start hiring teams, and that comes with the financial part. If you're raising capital, put that in there, right? You're going to have a sales force, and that's the most important thing. And who you pick, right? People are everything in life and in business. And somebody that is really good in sales, that's really connected in that space, you got to know, you got to pick the right people. So to answer your question, at the beginning, typically it's me that's going on something. And even still, this is, there's no better salesperson than the person who started it and co-founded it. But as that grows, right, you build out infrastructure to then have a team that goes out there. Like I said, conferences were extremely important to us, where you have the latest and greatest, and then really catchy email campaigns. Hey, never want another patient to die in your facility ever again. They click it. You gotta get after it in different ways.
When we were talking about getting started and trying to get those first customers, one of the, I guess, propositions is providing a value to another center, and we were discussing this a little bit off air. But if you're having trouble in the beginning getting new accounts, you can offer the service or a trial out for a few months to a center, get people using the product, and then use that as for marketing to other centers, because you have some examples. Did you do any of that, and how did that work out?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent. So with this particular business in Poplar Wellness, the good thing is that I have my own treatment center. So we started here. But what we did do is, getting it off the ground, we offered serious discounted pricing, right? And selecting the right people. If you're going to the top players in the industry, or people that have respect in that field and other people are paying attention to, give it to them for free. Give it to them at an extremely low cost, and it's going to help them. And we talked about it before. They're using that as a marketing tactic. They're going out there and, marketing it for you. Because every time, right, people are going on tours, other treatment centers that want to work with them, doctors, physician groups, they're all coming through on tours because their business development people are bringing them through, and they say, oh my gosh, look at those watches. That's incredible. You guys use this? I've never seen that before. Where did you get these? Right? And our brand's on there, our name, and word of mouth is the best form of marketing that's out there.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, when you were determining, like, you have a little bit of experience because of being in the behavioral health space, and with this product being, applicable in that space, you kind of knew a lot of the places to go, like the conferences and things like that. Did you have any other ways that you figured out, like new conferences to go? How did you determine? These conferences are expensive. How did you determine whether it's worth it to put a booth up, as in just sending a rep to, be one of the guests? Like,
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's things that we allocated in our pro forma beforehand, right? And test the waters. If you haven't been there before, you don't know, don't spend a bunch of money going in. Go to that first conference, show up, just buy a ticket, bring your brochures, bring your marketing material, talk to people. That's what it's about. It's all about networking. It's all about people, and it's all about connections. And they have that saying, right? It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that's so true. Look at the people that are around you. Try and surround yourself in those circles. Even if you don't have it, fake it till you make it a little bit. Go out there and try to talk to the right people. Test the waters. So, we did a lot of that. I would show up at conference. We didn't have a booth at the beginning, but I'd go talk to all the booths. I'd go talk to all the treatment centers. I'd go talk to the owners. We would get these meetings arranged on LinkedIn before we would go, right? So you're targeting certain CEOs. If you look on the internet, you can see the conferences that are out there. They'll have sponsors. You're going to know, you can find who's attending those. Once you know who's attending, then you reach out to decision makers on LinkedIn, right? And it's a numbers game. Not everybody's going to say yes, but it's law of averages. You knock on enough doors, somebody's going to answer and somebody's going to buy. So it's going to all of them, reaching out, trying to set that up. And again, you're giving away these services. It's word of mouth, and it continues to grow. So the hardest part is at the beginning, but it's like a snowball. You start to roll that snow, and it's real small, and it's hard to get it there. But then once it gains momentum, it rolls and rolls, and it gets bigger and faster. So the biggest thing is that people give up, right? It's too frustrating. They don't think it's going to work. And just when you feel like that is when you end up knocking it out of the park and something good happens. So I can't say that enough. Do not give up. Keep going. Keep thinking outside of the box and pushing the envelope.
Real quick before we go to the next break, because it leads me to my next question. I've been to a lot of these conferences myself. And, there's a right way and a wrong way to really get the maximum value from what you spend at these conferences. A lot of people, they go, they think it's a social hour, it's a fun weekend for them, and then they go back. But what are some of the tips you can give maybe the listeners that are doing B2B on how to maximize the spend that they put out at these conferences once they leave?
Once they leave. Yes. I mean, you got to do your research before you go there. Don't just show up. Who's going to be here? What's going to happen? They have apps, most of these big conferences, they show you who the attendees are. You can look all this up. You have to know who your target market is. Email lists, you can get them through the conference. You can collect cards. A lot of the times they'll give you the other contacts, right, that are at these companies. When you're at the companies, you got to follow up. Follow up is so important, right? You're getting conversations and just the little things, right? Remembering somebody's name, remembering what you talked about. Who's their favorite football team? What was their wife's name? What was their husband's name? Who was that? So writing that down, following up, right? Email lists, touching base through phone, LinkedIn. And it's also, if you're going to run some campaigns, there's something called retargeting, right? Everybody's on social media today. If they're interested, we follow them through the internet. Next time you're on Google or you're on YouTube or something like that, you're probably going to see our ads. And we just want that constant contact in somebody's head, because a lot of the times we know that it'll take them a while. I know people in the treatment center world, they're going to click on 7 different websites, 5 to 7 different websites before they choose which place they're going to go. So you have to be in front of it.
Well, we run out of time for this segment, so we'll be back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Street Level Marketing, where we're real people talking about real marketing strategies. We're on with Nick Boatman from Poplar Wellness. We've had a pretty good show here over the last 45 minutes, and I wanted to wrap up the segment, talking about you got a business now, you're trying to grow, and you're thinking about now it's time to raise some capital to grow more. Sometimes those pigeonholes come up where you gotta raise more capital to expand the business and reach more customers. So Nick, have you been into this process yet to where you're going out and raising money? When did you determine that it was time to do that?
Yeah, it really depends on where you're at with the business. I've raised a lot of capital in a lot of different situations. And, as an entrepreneur, especially if it's your first time business, where there's a lot of different routes that you can go. You could go on Kickstarter and raise that. You can find angel investors and different areas that you can go and pitch your idea with some investors to try to get them to throw capital in it. But if you're first starting, what I would always recommend is, first off, you have to have a strategic business plan and you have to have a pro forma. It has to be written out on paper, because any investor, it doesn't matter what the business idea is, they're going to flip right to the back and they're going to look at the margins. They're going to look at, is this a worthwhile investment? How much potential is here? And also remember that people are always, especially me, this is the way that I think. I'm betting on the archer, not the arrow. It's the people that are behind it that I'm betting on. So, if you're first starting out, I always recommend to, try to go to family and friends or some strategic partners or somebody that at the beginning to get it off the ground. Like I said, you can go the other routes, but make sure that you get enough capital to get it to where you need to go. Don't go short. If anything, tack a little bit more on. And it's about proof of concept at first. So you got to prove your model. You got to prove that whatever you're selling is going to be successful in that market. And once you've done that, everything's off your financials, right? It's off EBITDA. They're looking at, your revenue versus, your net income and where the potential of this can go and what your next moves are. So once you get it to a certain level of EBITDA, right? Once you get the company worth enough to where you feel like it's taking it to the next level, it's different for everybody. That could be, $1 million in EBITDA. You get enough cash flow depending on where you're at. Then that's the next level, is when you start talking about private equity or you start talking about seed funding. But if you go to them too quick and your company's not worth that much, either A, they're not going to be interested, which they're probably not. Any big boy is going to want to see the company at a certain point on your EBITDA before they're even going to look at you. But, you're going to be giving up too much of the company. If it's not worth that much on paper, then you're going to give up a massive chunk and you're going to have a much smaller piece. So that's where the archer is so important. Like, if you are a true entrepreneur and you want to succeed, you have to put your nose to the grindstone and you got to get it where it needs to go. And it's tough. I mean, you got to put in the work. Sometimes it takes years to do that, but you have a choice. Either, you're waking up and you're working for somebody else to help them chase their dreams, or you're chasing your own dreams. And I promise you, you put that work in at the beginning, at the end, it's going to be well worth it. And you're going to have that freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
So when you're doing this, we're going back to the marketing plan. Is it important to make sure you have a really structured plan in place when you're going to raise that money? Are you going to have to show where you're going to spend and allocate the money that you're raising? Do you have to put a lot into, the market share that's available to you and how much you can potentially capture of that?
Sure. I mean, you want to have all of those things. And again, it's about having a detailed plan. Your strategic plan, it's who you are. It's a SWOT analysis. It's looking at your competition. It's the market size, the market cap, where you're going as an organization. What is your purpose, right? What is your mission statement? Who are you? It's outlining those things. And then in your pro forma, it's showing exactly where you're going to allocate every dollar to a T. If you're going to get paid, that's on there. If you're going to spend it on marketing, that's on there. What do you need for software? What do you need for infrastructure? What do you need for inventory? How often are you going to have to buy inventory? At what point? Every detail that you can think of needs to be put in there and project out, right? So try to do a couple of years, 5 years, I would say, on what that looks like. And, you know, you want to get as detailed as you can so people can buy into that vision and also understand what that company could be. And again, looking at the Archer, I want to know if I'm investing in somebody that there's laser focus, there's a hunger there, and this is, you know, something that the people behind it are really passionate about. And if I see a plan and I see the structure, I see the potential, and I say, you know what, this could work in this market, and I really like these people. These people are behind this. That's a product or a service that I'm going to think about investing in.
So you say you're in what, 12 centers now?
Yes.
Where do you see yourself this year? Like, what's the plan that you have? What's your goals? Where do you see the company, say, going into 2026?
Yeah. So, you know, the goal for this next year, we're raising a little more capital. We're going with strategic investors, right? So we're giving away a piece of the pie, but if we hit certain markers, right, on our revenue, and we get it to certain points to where the investors paid back, we can then buy back that equity. So there's some different strategic structures that you can use. And again, Mark, like we were talking about earlier, use ChatGPT, use AI. They'll tell you all about creative ways to do that. You know, but our goal on this next year is to have a $2 million EBITDA. And we have some advancements that we're going into. So we have a new wearable that's coming out. It's called our wellness wearable. It does all types of biomarker data. It tracks sleep. It can do ECG with your heart. And people can wear that through a full continuum of care, and then they can wear it when they come home. So we have a full telehealth and telemedicine platform, and we want to be able to fill some gaps where we can treat people for life and keep them connected with chronic care physicians, right? People, they might be a diabetic, or, you know, they could have a thyroid disorder. We want to be able to treat that through telehealth, through your doc on our app, your medication management, therapy. You might be connected to, you know, your alumni of the treatment center that you just went, but everything's in one spot. It connects to our wearables. It connects to everything, to where when somebody leaves, we can help treat you for life.
Well, you're talking about those strategic investors. That's one thing that is probably pretty important to determine when you have potentially you have a lot of people interested in putting money in, is picking those investors that can maybe provide some doorways to open. Is that something you're looking at when you're choosing these investors?
100%. You know, we are in a market right now in healthcare. It's a very large market. It's also a tech company, right? So there's huge multiples in this field if you make it successful. And everybody's on the AI train. We have partnership with a big university on data collection right now. We're working on white papers, preventative algorithms. So in order to get there on raising the capital, we got a lot of people that are trying to throw money at us, but it's about, again, who we're going with, because people are everything. And we can go get money from somebody that wants to throw it at us, but it'd be a lot better if we got money with somebody that could help offer something to advance our company, right? Whether that's relationships. I'm always looking for people that are way smarter than me. I better not be the smartest guy in the room, and everybody around me, I want smarter than I am. And that's what it's about. Show me your 5 friends. Show me the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Same thing in business, an investor, because they'll take you farther. They'll give you advice. We don't know all the answers, but the people that are behind it and the people that you do get capital from matter a lot.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, for being a guest on the show. It was really good to hear about Poplar Wellness and, you starting the business, some of the marketing challenges you had. For the listeners, if they want to be able to find you, what's the website? Is there a phone number? How can they reach you?
Sure. You can find us online. It's poplarwellnessgroup.com. Poplar is a tree. It means resiliency, POPLAR, wellnessgroup.com. Or you can just call us at 888-8-POPLAR. If you need any kind of help with addiction, need a resource, struggling, we can help you in any way possible. Visit us at discoverynj.org. That's discoverynj as in New Jersey.org. And even if we're not the right fit, I've been through it. So many people I know have, and pick up the phone, give us a call. I promise you it'll change your life.
Thank you so much, Nick, again, for coming on the show. It was a lot of great information, and hopefully our listeners can maybe pick up a few tips on, how they can go about starting a business and, being successful in that venture, and then marketing it and getting it out to customers so they can grow. Thank you for watching another episode of Street Level Marketing. I'll see you next time.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.